What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel. Special guest today, one of the top prospects in the Dodgers system, Dalton Rushing, live from Oklahoma City. Dalton, thank you for your time today. How you been?
Being good. Got a couple weeks left in the season, trying to finish it as strong as possible. I'm excited to be on.
Love it, love it. Well, I was looking at the Oklahoma City roster. I know you've been playing some outfield, which we're going to get to, but do you guys have enough catchers down in Oklahoma City? You got a manager who's a catcher. You got about four dudes, it feels like, that could play catcher. Are you guys just
Oh
taking
yeah,
over?
oh yeah. We got a field full of catchers.
I love it. I love it. I'm sure everybody else loves that too. What position do you think gets most annoyed by catchers? It can't be pitchers, right?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I've never thought of it like that. I feel like you had mentioned, Dodgers do a good job of spreading guys out, and having three catchers on roster is pretty easy for a manager, I would say.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, one thing I like to do is just kind of go backwards in time and trace the progression of a guy up until this point. So I went back. You're a high school baseball player, football player in Tennessee. You're the Gatorade Player of the Year. And I have to ask this question. You had an offer from in-state Vanderbilt, who won the College World Series your senior year of high school, and you end
Yeah.
up at Louisville. How does that happen?
Uh, I don't know. It was an early commitment for me. So I committed like during the fall of my sophomore year in high school, and I mean even getting to Louisville, I learned more and more. But even before stepping on campus, I kind of knew like if you choose one of the two, you don't choose Vanderbilt or Louisville. It's there's a fine line between the two programs. They do a lot of similar things. They're both very successful, but there's a little bit of love hate in there for those two college programs.
I believe it. I believe it. Your first 2 years, you're behind future number one pick Henry Davis. People that have followed you know this. You're playing mostly first base. You make just 25 starts in 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm curious in that stretch, like where you were at mentally. Were you able to kind of look at Henry and say, the only reason I'm not playing is because this guy's going to be the number one pick? Or were there honestly moments of, like, as a sophomore not playing a ton, and you're kind of like, I don't know what my life looks like in 5 years?
Uh, I mean, they were very mixed emotions, I would say, to say the least. I wouldn't say it really like discouraged me in any way. I felt as if like I knew who I was. I knew how I was on a field. Like I didn't allow 1 year of playing behind a guy like that really determine how the next 3 or 4 would look for me. So it was more of just like I think that year helped me in the end. I think sitting there and watching as much baseball that year as I did kind of like lit a fire under me. And it kind of allowed me in 22 to just go out and play and do everything that I had said and mentioned that I wanted to do for 2 years now, rather than
Yeah.
just getting one full year under my belt before getting drafted.
Well, and I saw a quote from you that one of the things you love about being in the Dodgers organization that some people might view as a negative is you like kind of having to fight and claw for
Yeah,
everything. Nothing's
yeah,
handed to you. There's competition everywhere. I mean, looking backwards, this kind of has been your story in college and all the way through every level of the minor league. So talk about maybe where that competitiveness and that sort of desire to fight for things rather than being
yeah,
handed things comes from.
yeah. I mean, I don't. I guess that's just kind of part of who I am. I would be lying if I said that Louisville didn't kind of blow that up a little bit, because that was the big thing is you get on campus and the guys that don't really think that they can hang around and get any playing time, they leave, they transfer, they kind of just jump into the portal, especially in today's world, and they're just like, all right, I can run from this talent, I can just go get it my way wherever I go. And that was something I had never set my eyes on. I was like, yeah, I'm staying here, I'm sticking this out. Like if I don't play, that's on me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I did everything in my power to show that, one, I deserved to be on the field, and two, like I was going to make the most of it. And I mean, the good thing was I did. The bad thing was I waited until 22.
Yeah. Yeah. You sort of go to the Cape Cod League, have sort of a breakout where people, it feels like sort of like, oh, who's this
Yeah,
guy that's been sitting behind, the number one pick for the last couple of years? You come back as a junior. You get to play the full season, 64 games. You have an OPS over 1100, 23 homers. You had more extra base hits than you did singles. And all of a sudden you're on the draft radar. Then draft night comes. Talk me through draft night. I love hearing these stories of what were your expectations? Who had you been talking to prior to the draft having you at
I
number?
mean, there were no set in stone expectations. I kind of knew, and I had been told that when around pick 17, pick 18 rolls around, like, be seated, be ready to go, because it could happen at any point from
Okay.
there on out. And so yeah, that's a pretty wide range.
I was gonna say that's a long wait if you're
Yeah.
mentally in that space at number 17 and have to wait to 40.
So yeah, I was sitting in the chair around pick 17, 18, and it felt like I was in that chair for 48 hours. And yeah, and then pick 39 comes around, and they just go up to the board and announce it. I'm just looking around like, all right, am I just making all these people sit here and wait for no reason? Like, what's going on? And yeah, soon enough, get a call. Oh, actually, crazy story. My head coach from college, Dan McDonald, texts me, and he just, out of nowhere, we're sitting in a room. He's in the very back of the room. I have 20 family members in here. He just texted me, and he just said Dodgers. And I knew they picked at 40, so I'm like, how do you know? Like,
Yeah.
And just text me again, Dodgers. Sure enough, 30 seconds after he sends me that text, phone's ringing. Answer the phone, and they're like, hey, they're walking up to the stage now. It's the Dodgers at 40. So it was from there. I find that out, and I just kind of black out. So I obviously hear my name, and it's just like, all right, what's going on, kind of thing. And yeah, it all became reality very quickly.
We just talked about your competitiveness. How does a guy that is that competitive handle sitting in that chair and seeing, 23 names picked ahead of him in the range where he thought he was going to go? I mean, I'm not saying this is like the Amon-Ra St. Brown thing where you've memorized every name of guy that went before you, but I imagine there's a little bit of fuel that's
No,
on the fire there.
I know everyone that went.
You do?
Yeah.
From what pick? One
That's
through
nothing.
39?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not because of, like, I'm mad at them or anything, like, not
Yeah.
mad, but like it doesn't even really fuel me like that. It's just like I guess I would say I'm just that much involved in,
Yeah.
like, baseball, and so, like, I knew every name that was going. It was to the point where it was like the first 10 pick. I'm sitting 10 picks. I'm like, all right, this guy's gonna go. This guy's gonna go, and
Crazy.
you're just kind of like picking it apart like a puzzle. And
Yeah.
no, I don't hold anything against those 39 guys. I mean, some of those 39 guys are some of my favorite guys that I've ever played on the same field as, like, in the last 2 years in minor league baseball.
Well, what's crazy is you go 40th overall. And I remember, just as a guy who's following mainly the major league club, but keeping tabs on prospects. And within like 9 months, the Dodgers went from having a guy they picked 40th overall who was to becoming a top 50 prospect in all of Major League Baseball. And I was like, this is insane. You go to A ball, OPS over 1300, 8 home runs. What's it like to make that transition, college to the minor leagues, and to still have that level of success? Like, was there a moment in there where it clicked and you were like, oh man, like, there's nothing fluky about this. This is actually going to happen.
I don't know. 2022 is like that year from a baseball perspective was just obviously a whirlwind. I go into the season. I start the season off 0 for my first 10. It's my junior season. I'm like, what's going on? And that's kind of like a reminder nowadays, like, oh, you have a 10 at bat stretch where you're 0 for and you strike out 6 times. You're like, what's going on? And yeah, it was. I had one of those stretches to start the year, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm playing college baseball. I'm supposed to be here hitting 400. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, soon enough, it's the switch flipped, and we get around to mid-April, start of May, and it was there was just no stopping. And I just got on a streak, and I kind of carried that into August once I get drafted, get promoted to Rancho, and it was just like I mentioned, it was just a big wave that I rode, kind of more than anything. I didn't change the game at all. I get to Rancho, first at bat, hit a homer, and I'm like, all right, well, just keep going from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2023, I hesitate to call it adversity. your
No,
that
it
your
was.
your OPS was only 856. It wasn't 1200, 1300, something like that. What did that teach you? Kind of your first sort of prolonged, maybe not crushing the ball every time you went up there.
Yeah, it was an adjustment for sure. It was I'd say it was more of an adjustment for like understanding how I hit and understanding like how I perform my best
Yeah,
and help the team.
yeah,
And that is for something that I've learned this season versus last season. It's me swinging the bat. I'm only as valuable as, and it's great to control the zone, take your walks, continue to like carry a higher on base, you know. But what I realized is I didn't take enough chances to help our team win with my bat. And as far as like going up there with the intention of doing damage
yeah,
versus going up there with the intention of, all right, they might throw me one strike and walk me on 5 pitches. And now this year, it's like, all right, how can I maximize that one strike that they throw me? Like, how
yeah,
can I do my damage on that one pitch to give us a chance to win? You know what I mean?
totally.
And that was really the biggest adjustment. It wasn't. I mean, obviously, I had some adversity in there, and it was like, all right, like average doesn't show on base. They're like, all right, how did that on base come out of that average?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I showed a lot more slug towards the end of the year, so that was like a promising like factor. That like, all right, well, he didn't lose any power in a very not so hitter friendly league, you know.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, the biggest transition was this year. Once I go into the off season last year, it's like, all right, I got to do damage. I
yeah,
got to do this here. I got to do this there. Like that's going to never change. I have to do damage. So yeah, I put a little more emphasis on doing damage on the baseball and risking a little bit of a swing and miss in there, and it's worked out pretty well up to this point. Obviously, there's still hiccups that I feel throughout a season where it's like, all right, like I don't like striking out 3 out of 6 at bats. It's like that's one of my least favorite things to do. It fires me up. You talk about competitiveness. It's like I think it's very cliche to say, but I say it all the time. I'm like, it's not hard to move the ball forward. It's hard to move the ball forward in the right place. You
mm.
know, like when in reality, it's very hard to move the ball forward. And
Yeah,
I say that, and guys are like, "What are you talking about?" Like, it's very hard to move it forward. It's one of the hardest things to do in sports. But like, that's just the competitive nature. It's
yeah.
I try and simplify the game as much as possible, and that's really it.
Can you talk a little bit more about that shift in approach? Because it's kind of you're tapping into modern baseball in 2024.
Mhm.
And, this idea of, hey, the walks are great, but like
Yeah,
walking to first base 3 times versus hitting a 2-run home run and striking out twice, like the calculus of those two things is not, it looks different. Like the box score may say one thing and the on base percentage and all that. But how
yeah.
do you mentally get to a place where you have to change something that feels like it's been ingrained in you probably since high school?
That's the thing is I don't really change it as far as like saying, all right, I don't have to go up there and be two for four with 2 basic singles or
Yeah.
0 for 2 with 3 walks, like you had mentioned. It's more just like that's why at the beginning of the season I always put an emphasis on RBIs, and it's like I don't care about my average. I don't care about my OPS is going to come with whatever you do RBIs wise. I think when you go look at a player and you look at how many runs they drive in, you can usually tell how good of a hitter they are. And
Interesting.
that's just because of situational hitting, taking advantage of the free RBIs put in front of you. And if you slug, you're going to obviously, majority of the time, have more RBIs.
Yeah.
So everything kind of like plays hand in hand with your RBIs. And so I think that's really like one of the only stats that I really look at. And if I do look at it like a normal stat, I'm looking at OPS. I just
Yeah.
think like those 2 numbers right there are something that I use as a baseline, saying, all right, I'm getting on base and I'm slugging,
Yeah.
and that's really all I can ask for. But no, the transition didn't really, like I had mentioned say, okay, hey, this year, if last year I struck out 90 times in 100 games or whatever, or 90 games, I want to strike out 110 times in 100 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not setting the number. It's just more of like through the course of a full season, you're going to see the little bits of changes of, okay, hey, he went from an 18% strikeout rate to maybe 20 this
Yeah.
year. And I kind of teeter totter the two with like, all right, that's in the big leagues, it's a league average to strike out 26, 27% of the time. And I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep that number as close to being under 20 as possible. And I don't think I'll ever have to worry about running into that problem.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Well, this year, bump up to double A, the biggest jump. Most people say
Yeah.
you continue to hit an OPS almost 900. You get the triple A promotion to OKC. The average goes up. The on base goes up. But the big story in Oklahoma City, of course, is where you are playing in the field. And that would be outfield. I saw a quote. I believe you had played 1 inning of outfield in your entire life prior to Oklahoma City. Is that accurate?
Prior to the 3 games that I played in Tulsa,
Okay.
in left field, I played 1 inning, and that was in the Cape in 2021.
Okay. How did that 1 inning go well? I mean, did we feel like we could handle it after that 1 inning in the Cape?
Yeah, there was a single to left field, fly ball to shortstop, the third batter with 1 out, single to right field where I was playing, and the runner on first went first to third, and I threw him out at third.
There you go. Now we're
So
talking.
it was just like it was grab the ball, throw it as hard as I can in a straight line to third base. Or yeah, it was very like there was no technique, no knowledge of it or anything. I just kind of reacted.
Hey, results oriented business, man. Who cares about
Exactly.
technique? So talk
Exactly.
to me about, now learning the technique, that move out there. Obviously, we know that you have the athleticism, but
Yeah.
we've also seen at the major league level, there's been guys that have been transitioned to the outfield. Oh, this person's athletic. They'll figure it out. They
Yeah.
haven't figured it out. So
Yeah.
what's the move to the outfield been like for you?
Yeah. I don't. I never put in my head that I won't figure something out. So it was as soon as I mentioned something like that to me, it's like, all right, well, step one is be athletic. Show them how athletic I am, and be serviceable. Like if they threw me in a game in Los Angeles right now and said, "Hey, go to left field and be serviceable. Just do not make any major mistakes that's going to cost our team runs." I
Yeah.
know that I could go out there and do it. Um, and that was me probably a month ago with half a month under my belt of left
Yeah.
field. Now I'm getting more and more comfortable. I'm making the right reads on balls. I'm starting to understand the footwork, even the smaller things that are behind like basic outfield knowledge. So like just reading barrels, like reading the swing of the barrel, all the way out there in left field. Because some guys are like, all right, well, how can you get a little bit of a kickstart, head jump, on reading a fly ball? And it's the things like that have started to come a little easier and easier. Obviously, being with some of these guys that are in this outfield here right now, had a little bit of time with Pages. Like those guys are elite defenders, so
Yeah.
it's easy to kind of learn from them being in the same outfield day in, day out.
Yeah. I mean, are you at a point where obviously you're in the Dodgers organization? It's not a secret that the Dodgers have a guy who just signed a very long contract, who is from your college, who plays the same position that you're used to playing. They also have a guy under contract for a long time playing that's going to be the DH. They also have a guy who's under contract for a long time who's going to play first. So, I mean,
Yeah.
if and the Dodgers also said this like a few months ago, hey, this guy's not tradable. So you put all
Yeah.
those pieces together, it sure seems like the outfield is the most direct path to playing time.
Yeah.
Where does that like? I know the cliche is like, hey, I want to do whatever the team wants me to do to win. But I mean, like, if I told you that you had a career in the major leagues and actually
Yeah.
never played catcher, would that be kind of a bummer to you in some ways? Or would you be like, hey, if I get to play in the major leagues, regardless of the position, I'm good?
Yeah, it's that doesn't bother me. I think just getting the opportunity to be on a team like that. It's
Yeah.
anyone that sits there and argues that, and they're like, "Oh, well, this isn't what I want to do." Well, guess what? You're playing for the biggest fan base in baseball with 3 of arguably the best 5 to 10 baseball players on this earth.
Yeah.
Well, even more than that, but you get what I'm talking about, the big 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like anyone that ever approaches me about that, I'll be the first one to tell them, look, I just want to win.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing. I want to go out there. I want to, whether it's left field, I don't care, first, center, shortstop. I will never play any of those positions, but I put that out there. I just want to win. And
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing. I don't have any personal goals as far as being a big league player. Obviously, maybe some of those things will come
Yeah.
when the time introduces itself. But the only goal that I have is when I'm done playing baseball, I can look at my hand and understand that there's things on my hand that speak for themselves of my
Yeah.
career. And that's what I take pride in. And at the end of the day, like that's the biggest word is winning. And if me playing left field is what's going to help us win the most, that's what I'm here to do.
I know, there's whenever I ask guys at the minor league level about the opportunity to eventually make it to the major leagues. And I don't even mean cliche in the sense that they're lying to me, but there's the cliches of like control what you can control, focus on today,
Mm-hmm.
just do my best, let the rest take care of itself. Like,
Yeah.
is there any part of you that's looking up at the Dodgers roster and seeing maybe where there might be opportunities and might be places of like, hey, if I just do A, B, and C and I can get into this position and put myself here, like there has to be a part of you that's doing that calculus, that math in your head, right?
I mean, yeah, that's the competitive side of me. But I mean, one thing that's very true about this organization is they're never going to rush you. They're
Yeah.
never going to really, I guess you could say, do anything to jeopardize the length and longevity of your career. And
Yeah.
so they've seen a lot more baseball than I have. As much as like that, I hate to say that. They've seen more baseball than me, and they understand how this world works. And like you had mentioned earlier, they made the choice of holding on to me in a very, very serious time for Dodger baseball at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And they made that choice and said, hey, we're not giving him up. So it kind of shows me a little bit of a boost of confidence saying, hey, like, you are where you are. Like, you're here for a reason. You're here for a reason to help them win games, whether it's this year, next year, whatever it is. And I try not to worry too much on when it happens. It's
Yeah.
just like, all right, can I make sure that when it does happen, like I'm good to go. Like
Yeah.
there's no question marks. There's no. It's just gonna like I'm gonna be able to do what they need me to do, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I don't mean to put you in an awkward spot. As we're recording this, last night Teoscar Hernandez leaves the game with an injury.
Yeah.
Uh, he plays left field, the position that
Mm-hmm.
you've been playing at AAA. When
Yeah.
something like that happens, are the Dodgers communicating with you, like giving you scenarios like if this happens, dot dot dot, or is everybody kind of in the dark when in the meantime?
It's dark, and it's
Okay.
yeah. You don't. I would assume, especially for a situation like mine, I wouldn't find anything out until there was something set in stone to say,
Yeah.
hey, it's your time to go, kind of thing. But yeah, like I mentioned, I don't. I saw what happened to Teo last night, and that's about as unfortunate as any sort of news that could have come from Dodger baseball.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's just a little contusion on the foot, ankle, whichever part. It really got him, and it's a quick return.
Yeah.
He is who he is. Everyone knows how valuable he is. But if in the meantime, if that opportunity does arise, like I just want to go there and do whatever I can to help the team win, just as if it was Tasker in that spot.
Yeah. Last question here. I mean, just looking big picture 2024, not specific to last night, Teoscar Hernandez. Like, have the Dodgers had conversations with you about where they feel like you're at? Like, have they said, hey, we think you can if the opportunity arose? Like, we think 2024 could be the year that you make it up and that you get a chance to contribute? Or have there been conversations where they say, like, hey, we're never going to say never, but like, we're looking to 2025?
Yeah, I mean, the very simple answer would be like if you go to camp and spring training as a prospect the year before, like me going to camp this year, that was kind of a message or a code. They're saying, hey, like we're not saying you're the first option out of the minors this season, but there's a chance you could be in this
Yeah.
clubhouse with these guys very soon. So like, I wouldn't say that they've ever set their sights on 2024, 2025. I think it's more of whatever the opportunity or whenever the opportunity arises. If I'm the best fit, all right, let's go with it, and we know what we're getting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a question mark of saying like Doc's never seen this guy play or any of the other guys. Like, it's so no, they haven't mentioned anything as far as in depth to the year. But like I said, we could get off this call and 24 hours from now I could be on my way, or we could get off this call and I might be in spring training again with the big league team, just trying to break camp.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dalton, I'll say this. I know there's a lot of people in Los Angeles that are super excited about you, about what you've been able to do. I think they're going to be more excited when they just hear the mentality behind it and the way that you approach things, because, it's easy to root for guys that put up big numbers. But when you hear the approach and you hear the mental attitude and sort of the competitiveness, I think that's what Dodgers fans come to love, and a lot of the guys that make it up. And so, I know there's a lot of people in Los Angeles that are rooting for you, and they're rooting for you in 2024, not at the expense of anybody else. But I know there's a lot of people that if that call were to have come in the next 24 hours, you'd have a lot of people excited.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate your time this morning. Best of luck in Oklahoma City for as long as you are there. And of course, if you do make it up to the big league club, best of luck. So that is Dalton Rushing, one of the Dodgers' top prospects. It used to be a catcher. Now, I suppose, left field / catcher / first base / designated hitting prospect, Dalton Rushing. So thanks again for your time. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here on Dodger Heads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. Please go ahead, subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you're a podcast person, Apple, Spotify, Google, search for the Dodger Heads podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. As always, go Dodgers.
Thanks, Jeff.